Hello and welcome back to this channel. We just officially closed for the day. Today, as you can tell from the title, is going to be a very different video from our usual programming. But that's why we love you, and all of our almost 8,000 subscribers. Help us get there by subscribing down below. And let's get into this video. So if you've seen our last video, you'll see the tour of the store. But don't get that confused, that's not what we started with. It was a very humble beginning for us. We started with practically nothing. We had no money. We started with a few tables and a dream. Essentially, it was tomatoes, produce, fruits, a cooler with some dairy. And then over the years, we took on, more and more products. And now we're a full-fledged market, I would say, where people can do their one-stop shopping here. So after, a few months, we took on, some bakery goods, some pies, some cakes, some cookies. Then after another few months, we started doing a full-on snack section. Then another few months went by, we invested and did a full-on drink section. Another few months, and you're starting to get the idea on what I'm saying here. It took time to build inventory when you started from pretty much zero. So in this video, don't get confused where we started with everything you see here. The value is a lot higher now than what we started with, but I'll break it down to the basic renovations from, the pen on the ground to the electrical on the walls. We're gonna break it down in this video on what you can expect and how much it will cost. For this video, I want to answer the burning question for all of our new viewers, because we get this question in our email or comments a few times a week now, and it's how much does it cost to open a convenience store? And I'm basing it on my store in Canada. This is my personal experience. Again, we are running this place 1,600 square feet. We did all the renovations. Your situation might be a little different. However, for our situation, it will give you a good idea on what to expect and what you'll need to actually bring to the table to get your store up and running. And yes, I've made this video in the past. However, there's a lot of new viewers who are still at the basic steps of starting their own small business. And to be honest, we are really improving our editing. So I want to give this one, one final chance here and really make it kind of the final version of this series that we do. Alright, we're gonna break this down point by point in my office. Let's shoot over there and let's really, dive into the numbers and the renovation costs and everything associated with starting your own business. Alright, let's go. I gotta take my... Oh, okay, I just broke this chair, so that's good. See, we have expenses every day here. We have expenses every day. Our dress is completely broken here. That's great. All right, let's start from the top. These are gonna be in no particular order. And I really appreciate if you hit the like button. It really helps this channel grow and support this small business. And it gets this video out to more people who are like-minded just like you, some small business entrepreneurs out there may not have seen this channel yet, and just hitting that like button will really get this information out further. We're starting right from the top, and I have my list here on all the expenses, and I don't know where this money came from. That could be another video, but yeah, let's start from the top. The electrical for the space was the biggest expense. The building had nothing done except the studs, the drywall, and the white paint on the walls. So we needed to go in before this was done and do all the electrical, the outlets, all the lighting was done by us. Basically bringing electrical to the unit was with our panels, you know, our generator. Everything that needed to be set up with special outlets was done as well. Some of the coolers required special outlets. So that cost me a total of $28,000. When I heard that, I was shocked. I did not expect it to be that much. We got 3 different quotes. This was the lowest one. And we got to know the electricians, and we knew their work was quality, so we went with them. Yeah, so $28,000 just on electrical. The next was the HVAC system. So all the duct work, all the vents, all the attachments required from the air conditioning unit into the space, the grocery store, cost us $5,800. And again, we got 3 quotes. Like I always suggest to anyone renovating a space or a house or a commercial unit, $5,800 for the HVAC. And that was pretty reasonable. I expected that price. So next we had the starting inventory. Remember when I said we started very humbly? Well, you'd think $5,000 would go a long way, but when it comes to filling a store with produce, grocery, dairy, and everything else, it was very sparse. So our starting inventory was only $5,000, and if you talk to anyone in grocery or convenience, that's literally nothing to fill your store. Next, we had the signage for our store. Again, very humble signage. It was just a circle with the logo on it. $500 for that. They did it in maybe 10 minutes. All they did is screw it into the top of the building. We did end up upgrading that 2 to 3 years in when we had a better cash flow, but that was probably a mistake because it wasn't visible from the road. We started the first 2 years of business. We had, I would say, a lot of people didn't know what the store was because the sign was so simple and so basic. So the next we had tiles and the labor to put in the tiles. Mind you, it was a good friend of the family and I had to do a lot of the work with them. So to tile 1,600 square feet only cost me $4,000. And it's because I legitimately was, the grunt man. I was doing all the heavy lifting. I was passing him the tiles. He was doing the cutting. I would do some of the placing. I got to learn quite a bit, and it probably saved me half the money by helping him do it. And honestly, he gave me a good deal. I learned something, and we ended up parting ways with both of us being happy. Now, another very big expense was our walk-in cooler. As you've seen in our other videos, that is pretty much the basis and the core of the store. It keeps everything fresh for us. All of our dairy has to be stored in there. Our produce has to be stored in there. Our butter tarts, any refrigerated dessert has to be stored in there. So this was an expense I did not know how much it would be. This was our first business in the food industry. It was $11,000, and that one was another shock. I was happy I was sitting when they told me the amount of that quote. Then in our store, if you notice, we have 2 side doors. One is a glass commercial door, and the other is a steel door that was required to be put in for fire safety. It has to be rated for fire safety. So both doors ended up costing us about $2,500. These are just basic costs. We did our research, got our 3 quotes, and they both came to about $2,500 together. Next, we had our commercial sink and the plumbing required to get it all set up. They had to dig out some trenches to connect it into another system that was already flowing through the building. So that cost us about $1,000. It was a used commercial sink. Again, when buying used, just be careful, do your research. Something like a sink isn't a big deal. But leading into our next expense are coolers. So these are our stand-up coolers, the commercial coolers you carry, milk, cheese, Coke products, drinks, all that stuff that you would see in those 2-door standing coolers. We purchased. We only had 3 to start. Again, we really had not a lot of money to play with here to start this business. So those coolers we bought used. We spent $2,500. We got 2 2-door coolers and 1 single-door cooler. Both of them the two double doors had broken down on us in the first 2 years. We got them fixed. Then one was not worth fixing, got rid of that, and now we're only left with the single door cooler. And you know, knock on wood, that it lasts another 5 years. That's the only one left out of that. Moving on into our front end section, we had a point of sale system. We just basically use an iPad, a scale, and a regular wooden table to do all of our transactions. That totaled about $1,000 with the scale, the iPad, and the table. That could use some improvement. We've added things around it, but at this point it has never had a problem. And with the service on the iPad and everything, we're pretty happy with that price point. Following that, we had our shelving. Again, an uncle, or you can even call it uncle and friend of the family, helped us build these. They gave us a really good deal. I helped them do some of the work on that. That was another $3,000. They did all of our wooden shelving. That's basically what we started with. Then we had some other wooden tables made for some other produce. And if you see our store now, you'll see those steel metro shelves along the sides of the store. That is something we added over time. Literally month by month, we were buying more and more shelves to keep adding product. Now we're full to the brim. I haven't bought a shelf in 2 years. I think we're okay. There's really nowhere to squeeze any more shelves. If I do, the fire department's probably gonna come and shut me down, so we're good on shelves right now. Following into that, we had the store painted and the roof painted. So I was also out of town for a lot of this project. I was working out of town as a teacher, but the guys who did our painting for the store, they painted everything slightly the wrong color, and there was a big dispute. We had to get it. I wasn't there 100% of the time like I should have been for this project. But this, this was a big ordeal. We had to get it redone. So in total, they painted the entire store, they painted the back room, they painted the roof, and it cost us with everything about $3,000. So that's with some redoing it. It was a big ordeal, but yeah, it was about $3,000 to paint the entire store and spray the roof black, as well as the ductwork. They sprayed everything black on top. It's a nice look. It saved us a lot of money without having to put a ceiling in. Then we had to pay our rent. We had to pay the lease. We had to pay our first and last month's rent. In any commercial property, most likely you will have to pay the first and last month's rent up front as a security deposit. You eventually end up, using them as regular month's rent as time goes on. But our rent at the time was, for the first month, it was $2,600, and for the last month, which is a 5-year lease, is a little higher at the end, so it was about $3,000. So in total, we paid $5,600 up front to the landlord to show, we are serious. This is a security deposit. We want to start our business. You can use these when, we're ready to, use these months' rent. And that's what happened with that. Very boring, clinical stuff, but it has to be paid, and that's the way it goes. All right, and lastly, the miscellaneous items. All of our things add up at the end of the day. All of your office supplies, your printers, your, cash register boxes, the espresso machines, all of that stuff really adds up quick. Your phones, the list goes on and on and on for miscellaneous things. So I put this down as a section of $3,000. This goes, for all of your shelving, liners, all of that stuff adds up quick. Do not overlook this. This will end up eating into your budget if you don't advocate for it correctly. All right, so that wraps it up. We're gonna do a final total here for my store in Windsor, Ontario. 1,600 square feet, remember that. So I'm gonna put the total on the screen here for the total renovations and what it costs from day one to opening day to start. I'm estimating from just remembering around 74 to 75,000, but I'm gonna put the exact total on the screen so you have a rough idea about what's expected in this size space. Of course, you can find things cheaper, you can do things yourself, and I can recommend that if you're able to. The prices, mind you, have gone up from 5 years ago to now, so you're looking at maybe a pretty big increase from what I paid to start. Everything has gone up from equipment to labor to even things like pens and pencils have gone up quite a bit, and especially the food costs. The increase in food costs from that day to now probably is about 50% higher. So it's all relative to what I paid, I know, but just giving you a heads up, and I hope this video gave you some insight on starting your own store and how much it truly costs. In a future video, we will get into how we came up with the money, how to fund small business funding and grants. It's different for every area, but it gives you an idea on how to start, and that's what this channel is all about. And I hope you guys take some value from that. I'm gonna end this video here, guys. Thanks for watching as always, and I hope you have a good night.